What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to talk to you today about something that I've kind of been dissecting a little bit myself and been sharing with some financial coaches. And here's what I want to talk about. And maybe this is going to seem very obvious to you, but I have been going to a bunch of conferences. I've read a bunch of materials. And one thing that happens in the financial wellness industry is that a lot of terms get used interchangeably and they are not the same thing. So I want to just share with you what my opinion is on how these terms should be defined and what they mean. Now, this does not mean that this is the authoritative list or definitions for these things, but this is how I think of them, and this is why they are not interchangeable, right? That I use them pretty diligently. So I want to talk about the term wellness, so financial wellness. I want to talk about the term health, financial health, and resilience, financial resilience, okay? And a lot of times, and what got me was I was at a presentation by a big conference and some people who are supposed to be authorities on this and spending millions and millions of dollars in the research world. And they just, they're kind of throwing it out there. We're absolutely focused on financial health and resilience. And, we want to keep people in that space. We want to make sure that their health or their wellness is improving. And again, they're kind of throwing them out there like there's no difference between them. So I want to do them in this order. This is not necessarily the order that I might put a final presentation together with, but I want to talk about wellness, health, and then resilience, okay? So what that wellness means to me is somewhat subjective, if that makes sense, right? So wellness is a state of being to me, and wellness is a state of flow. So if you are familiar with the concept of flow, what they say is that kind of when you are in your state of flow, you are below a state of stress and you are above a state of boredom, right? So you're not stressed out, you're not bored, you're kind of in that state of flow. And maybe, when you're working well and you're kind of got the talent to do the things and you're maybe being challenged and you're learning and it's just enjoyable, right? This is a point where I think a lot of people will say, man, time flies, right? Because you're having fun, you're having a good time, right? Sometimes you're at work and you're like, I can't believe the day's over. Okay, so that's being in a kind of a state of flow. And similarly, when you're in a state of financial wellness, you're not in a state of stress, but you're also not in a state of boredom, which, if you're super wealthy, you can absolutely be in a state of boredom. There are people that I've seen here that own 1,000 exotic cars. Why is that? Because that's a state of boredom, because it doesn't matter. You just want to get something new every day, and $1 million doesn't matter to you, right? State of boredom. But for a lot of us, what we want is we want to be in financial wellness. And this is a state, it's not necessarily a moment that happens. And hopefully it's just a state that you will stay in for your entire life. So I kind of think of it as like this funnel. I think of it kind of like the sidewalk of your financial life. You want to stay on that. If you get on the grass on one side or grass on the other side, maybe you're out of wellness, and it can happen for any reason. You might get sued, you might lose your money, maybe you lose your job, whatever, right? There's a lot of components. But that sidewalk should be pretty wide. That road for you should be pretty wide. And that's where I want to get into health, all right? So what health to me is a measurement of your financial health at any particular point in time. We can do this through an assessment or look at your credit score number at a certain point in time, or what your asset mix is, or your asset to liability ratio, or your net worth. There are all sorts of metrics we can use to kind of gauge financial health. It's not super easy. We can do these with emotional surveys too. So a lot of these financial assessments are just much more, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling hopeful, confident in the future? All these things, right? So that health is a point measurement. So if I think about it like that sidewalk, right? What I want to do there is I want to see, like, are you close to the edge? Are you right in the middle? Are you just a little left of center or wherever, right? So that health measurement is showing me, where you kind of fall specifically. Now, what I will say is that there are points where you could be outside, like your financial health could be bad, but it might not be out of the wellness area, right? So what to me is that point might be right up on one of the borders. It could be just a really bad month for you. It could be a really bad year. Maybe you were unemployed. You had a lot of health problems. You had a lot of medical bills and all these other things. But maybe you still have a decent amount of savings. Maybe it hasn't derailed your retirement, right? It's just your health measurement for any particular point in time has been terrible, abysmal, something you don't want to sustain, okay? And your wellness could still be there overall. This is what I wanted to kind of discuss, because this brings me to the concept of financial resilience, which is something we talk a lot about. A lot of people are saying, like, the key to staying happy and the key to getting your goals is to, improve your resilience, your financial resilience. And a lot of times we think about this in terms of just savings. I feel like a lot of people talk about financial resilience as just having more savings, which I think is a component to that, but it does not encapsulate what financial resilience is in its entirety by any means. But what I wanted to say here is that because your health measurement could be on the edge and you could still be in wellness, or your health measurement could be squarely in the middle, so you're very healthy, but you're right in the middle of wellness, maybe that's the ideal spot. The issue to me is how wide is your sidewalk? Because the further out your health measurement might be from ideal, right? Maybe it's really great. That's not going to be a problem. But if it's really bad, if it's putting you off the sidewalk into the grass, right, that's going to be a problem. You're kind of moving out of wellness potentially at that point. So what resilience to me is how wide is your sidewalk? How much space do you have to maneuver around and have that health number bouncing around before it falls out of the wellness space, right? So instead of having a sidewalk, a financial wellness sidewalk, you would love to have a financial wellness neighborhood street. You'd love to have a financial wellness 16-lane highway, right? And one of the reasons that you can have that is certainly more savings, more assets, right? So even if you are having a bad moment, a bad year, right, and everything is just kind of falling apart, if you had $1 million in savings, well, your wellness bandwidth is probably much larger. You say, listen, this sucks. Things aren't going well right now. My financial fortunes are in a ruin, but I'm still on my financial wellness space, or I'm still on my sidewalk or 8-lane or 16-lane highway because I know that it's still not going to derail me. What happens is a lot of times that sidewalk, that financial wellness corridor for people is very, very narrow. And so when we look at a financial health score, and sometimes it doesn't have to be that bad, it can be outside of that wellness zone, right? So sometimes you'd be like, well, that's all right. A 60 on a 100-point scale, that's not bad. Well, a 60 on a 100-point scale might mean that someone's out of wellness, and a 60 on someone's financial wellness score might mean they're right in the middle. So this is what I have been working on here, is because I really would love to give kind of people 3 measurements when I talk to them. 3 kind of indicators of their overall health: a wellness score, a health score, and a resilience score, just to kind of say, hey, how are you doing right now? Do you feel comfortable about how things are going, right? If you are in the wellness zone, how do we keep you in there? And then, where are you falling right now and why, right? If it's a lower health score because it's debt, right, we can kind of get your debt down. And when we do that, when we try to get that financial health, hopefully we're pulling those levers that's slowly opening your wellness corridor. But what I really want to do is open up that wellness corridor as much as possible and really build your resilience too, because the wider that is, the more space you have to maneuver and to do things inside of your wellness zone, your wellness street, your wellness 16-lane superhighway, whatever it is, as we build that up, that's your resilience building up, right? So that's kind of how I understand, or I think about at least, wellness, health, and resilience. So hopefully that gives you some context that when you're thinking about it, or you even using the terms, or if you're ever connecting with me on it, hopefully we're using terms that mean the same thing to each other, right? So just wanted to throw that out there, and hopefully it helps you in some of the conversations or writings or content making or even the discussions that you're having. All right, I'll see you later.